On behalf of the West Virginia School Board Association, let us provide a hearty welcome to the Governor of the State of West Virginia, Jim Justice.
How are all y'all? Everybody good? Well, I don't know where they've got me set up. Am I to talk to you now? I mean, somebody's got to give me a little bit of the playbook here. Oh, you got me down there. All right, I'm going down there. That's easier.
Dale will be introduced.
Okay.
Mr. Dale Lee.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to get to address you today and to be around people who put children first, because that's what we do. I'm very honored to be able to introduce our governor, because in the last 2 years now, I've spent an enormous amount of time with him, traveling around the state. And as a lifelong West Virginian, there's no one else I know that cares more passionately about the state of West Virginia and about the people of West Virginia than Governor Justice. By the same token, as a coach many years ago, we were adversaries. And you know, you always have that little competitive grind going when you're coaching against each other. But we knew that each other's teams would be there with class. And that's the way the governor does the things that he does in his year so far as governor. And he never forgets to put the kids and teachers and service professionals first and foremost in his thoughts. It is a privilege to serve as president of the West Virginia Education Association. It's a tremendous honor. It's a great honor also to be able to introduce the governor of the state of West Virginia, but it's an even bigger honor to be able to call him my friend. So at this point, the governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice.
No, please. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this right around here where I can sit and talk with you, okay? I hope. First of all, this will be really easy for me, I think. You know, I've gone through all the training that I think most everybody here has. I was a board member a long time ago, and I enjoyed the work, and I was sincere about it, and I feel today exactly the same that I felt then. And that's just this. I believe that education should be the centerpiece to driving our entire economy. You know, a long time ago, as a board member on the Raleigh County Board of Education, you know, I sat there and I proposed an idea. I said, you know, what if we could come up with a way within Raleigh County? What if I could find the greatest Philadelphia lawyer to come up with a way that we could add another funding component to what we were doing in Raleigh County? You know, you have your levy or your bond, and you have your Fed or your state funding, and that's it. That's what you have. But what if I could go out on a campaign within Raleigh County to our businesses or to our taxpayers and come up with another block of monies? Now, if I remember correctly, at that time, Raleigh County was operating on about $80 million. And believe it or not, we were building schools for $10 or $12 million. But what if I could come up with a way in which the community would embrace some level of taxation or whatever it may be, that what we would raise within Raleigh County would be another $20 million. And then what we would do is we would give half of that money, and we'd have to get around all kinds of hoops and everything else, but we would give half of that money to our teachers or service personnel or to the people that would be working within education in Raleigh County annually. Now, that would have been a big, big, big boost to Raleigh County as far as the people that were working within education. And we'd take the other half of the money and put it into whatever, building, upgrading schools, whatever it may be. And what we would try to do, we would try to create an education mecca within Raleigh County to where every business and everybody would want to come to Raleigh County because it would be the place to be able to bring your kids in public education. It would be the place to educate your kids. Well, to be perfectly honest, maybe it was too big an idea. And I felt like a lot of times I was barking at the moon. But you see, the concept is just the same. The concept is just this. Create a place to where people want to come to educate their kids. Everybody wants their kids to be in a place to where they feel like they're getting the very best education, the very best stuff for our kids, the very best athletic programs, or the very best computers, or whatever it may be. That's where we as peoples want to come to. So you see, in return, if you just take that one concept and you think about it, you'll know exactly where I am all the time. Where I am all the time is just this. I think education needs to drive everything we do. Everything. We need to be the place in West Virginia where people want to come to because we have the best and we have the safest and we are the place for people to bring their children to come to educate those kids. Now, however you put it together, net, that's where I am. Now, you had some real obstacles, and there was someone within my organization that was kind enough to write down some notes. And and almost never do I do this. And I don't have my glasses, so forgive me if I stumble. But these are so worthy to be able to and is somebody bringing me some glasses? Okay. So that takes away the stumble. Okay. All along, I promised you. Now, I haven't changed any part of my mission statement. But I promised you in West Virginia that I would reform education as best I possibly could to make it more effective and efficient, and the legislation was passed to put us on a path to do so. Now, in addition to that, we're now restoring, which I think is only the right thing, local control to increase flexibility in regulations for county school systems and providing support for classroom teachers throughout West Virginia. Now, we've done that, and we're on our way to doing more. I've told you that we would shatter the bureaucracy in Charleston that basically, I thought, sat on a throne and decided everything for you to do. Now, we've done that. You should clap a little bit along the way. And by shattering that bureaucracy, we're changing the way that shared services are provided to local schools, eliminating the need for recess and limiting school systems interventions by the State Board of Education to the most extraordinary or dire circumstances. Basically, the net of the whole thing is we're trying to put control back in your hands because we feel like I feel like that you know best what to do. Now, we've reduced the high-stakes testing and put an end to the A through F grading of our public schools. Now it's when you clap again. Now, one of the things that we didn't get done, and I hate it, and that was the start, which was just nothing, but to start to giving our teachers more monies. We didn't get it done because at the last minute, everybody dove in the ditch, and I didn't like that. Now, you know, it's been a little bumpy because I started out as a Democrat and then I changed to a Republican, and you may think, well, what in the world has he done all that for and everything? And the net of the whole thing is just one thing. I haven't changed any. I don't really care at all whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. I want us to be West Virginians. But what happened in the process was just this. And we can say what we want, but we had a lot of what we really wanted to achieve done. And at the end of the day, I needed my party behind me, and they weren't. And they weren't because of some of the very same things that the Republicans are all into too, and that is this infighting all the time over some political whatever it may be. But the one thing that I haven't done, I haven't changed my commitment to education in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I believe in your mission statement, and I believe that education should be our centerpiece, and I won't change that. You see, all I can ever do is just tell you the truth. I came here for nothing for me. Anybody that thinks that I'm here for something for me is a lunatic. That's all there is to it. You see, I don't need the status or I don't need the ego because I'm not into that at all anyway. I surely don't need the money. I don't need a hot tip on the next business deal. I'm here for one thing, and that is to get us in West Virginia out of being 50th and to get us to something that is a whole heck of a lot better than that. Now let me switch gears with you just a second, because this is monstrously important. On October the 7th and on September the 22nd, you're going to have the ability to start voting for whether or not we pass this road bond referendum. Now let's talk just a second about this. Along the way, when I walked into the party, and let's be real now, let's just be fair. When I walked into the party, we had a $500 million deficit in West Virginia, did we not? I mean, we did. So here we are, just as you take this $500 million deficit, and you got one side over here that says we don't want to raise any taxes whatsoever, and you got another side over here that, well, I don't even know what kind of ideas they may have had, but the net of the whole thing is we're losing population in our state, our kids are leaving, families are fragmented out to yin-yang, we, for all practical purposes, lost our coal business and everything, everybody's leaving, we've got a drug epidemic out to yin-yang on top of all that, and just as you've got a $500 million hole in the bucket. And you know what we propose? We propose that the only way really out of this thing is maybe just cut. Now, What are you going to do, Justice? What are you going to do? I mean, really and truly, what are you going to do? So I went to work, and I went to work with all in me. I could have just sat back and said, well, okay, well, let's do this. Let's just whack DHHR, and who really cares about the autistic kids? And let's just let's just do this and do that and everything else under the sun, and we can take a whole heck of a lot more out of education and higher ed and K through 12 and whatever. And then it'll be okay. Well, it won't be okay, because more people will leave. And if more people leave, when you turn around, that hole in the bucket's still going to be there. Now, and then what are you going to do next year? I've got to tell you this story because I love this story to death, and I really hate that this kid got in a lot of trouble. But a kid at Greenbrier East, when Jill was there, on the way to school, and if I've told you this, just bear with me again, but on the way to school, there was a raccoon that had been run over. And he stopped and picked it up and put it in his truck. And of course, it was dead and everything, but when he got to school, he took fishing line and wrapped it around the raccoon's neck and tied the fishing line to the back of his leg and took off running down one of the corridors in the school screaming like crazy that the raccoon was chasing him. And people were diving into classrooms, and teachers were falling over chairs and everything else. And the kid, I thought it was ingenious, to tell you the truth. But the kid got in a bunch of trouble. But the net of what I'm telling you is, if we don't do something, every time we turn around, that raccoon's going to be there. Now, and I really mean this. I really, really mean this. I really believe that all the good ideas that come to me come from the good Lord. And I take credit for the bad ones myself. And I come up with some doozies that aren't good. But I won't ever not tell you anything but the truth. And it just hit me in the campaign. I said, we've got to come to a way to create instant jobs. Instant jobs. We don't need to build a climate right now and hope people will come. We've got to come up with instant jobs. Well, the only way to come up with instant jobs is the roads. We've got jobs that are on the books and have been on the books forever and a day. I went to Man and Logan the other day, and Route 10, which is so desperately needed it's unbelievable, is completed. 20 years. 20 years. Now, the Coalfield Expressway has been in the planning and in the process now 27 years. Well, for God's sakes, a living. We're all going to die before anything happens. And our children are going to be gone, and West Virginia is going to be declared a state park because we're all going to be gone. Now something's got to be done. So it just hit me. I said, well, what would it take? What would it take to let every road job we had on the books? And then I came up with $125 per breathing West Virginian and put that into a financial instrument and bond it, and off we'd go. Instantaneous, all kinds of jobs beyond belief, and building roads and fixing roads, and off we'd go. Well, then I got to figure out how to come up with $125. And so we did that. We did that with a little bit of gas. We did that with a little bit of DMV. We did that with a little bit of privilege. We did that with the turnpike tolls. All that's done. My dad would say that's done. Now the whole thing about the roads referendum is just this. It has nothing to do with the tax increase. All that is done. It has only one thing that you're voting for, and that is the ability, and if I could take credit, second to the good Lord, to the idea is ingenious, and that is be able to put it all together in one bundle, make it a bond, and be able to do it all now instead of 27 years from today. Now, I got to have you. I got to have you in every way. Because really and truly, if we miss this, you can turn out the lights. That's all there is to it. this will give us the opportunity to generate revenue beyond belief that will spin right back around into education and everything we got going. It truly is the opportunity for 48,000 jobs. Now, can you imagine what that's going to do to West Virginia? It will be unbelievable what it does. Now, it's not only building new roads, but in addition to that, it's fixing existing roads. And before you leave in just a minute, I'm going to have someone give everybody here 5 copies, every county in our state, 5 copies of just this. Have they already given it to you? They already have, okay. And that is how much money, how many jobs, how many construction projects are going to happen in your county. In your county. Now, you can either vote to do one of 2 things. You can either vote to say, no, I don't want to do that, or I do want to do it. It's not a vote on anything whatsoever about taxes. It's just a vote on this. What if I just showed up in Monroe County tomorrow and I said, in Monroe County tomorrow, we're going to do 12 projects and spend $9.6 million. Do you want to do it or not do it? And there's not a living person there, even Crazy Harry at the 7-Eleven, that would say, no, I don't want to do that, unless he was one thing. He was scared by somebody. He was scared somebody into believing that there was some kind of hocus pocus, that if you did it, you know, the Loch Ness Monster was going to come and bite you, or you're going to have to pay an additional tax or whatever like that, which is totally untrue. Now, here's a $64 question I want to ask you, and I want you to be honest with me. I want you to be really honest. And then I want you to tell me why, if there is somebody here. Is there anybody here that has ever heard or believes or has ever heard of a relative or Crazy Harry at the 7-Eleven or whatever? Is there anybody here that believes that they know somebody that's going to vote against this? Anybody? Tell me why. Now, we've got to dispel that, don't we? We've got to make them believe that that's not true. Because listen, here's what you do. You take the gas tax that's already in place, or you take the turnpike tolls that are already in place, and you put them together, because the people that are buying the bonds aren't idiots. They're not idiots. They got to believe, in order to buy the bond, that the funding is already in place. They're not going to bank on us raising a tax. They got to know the funding is in place before they buy the bond. So, if the funding's not in place, they're not going to buy the bond. They're not going to bet on us to say, well, if things go real bad, we'll raise taxes. I mean, bull snot. They're not going to do that. They're not going to buy the bond. So the funding has got to be there. And the funding is there. So what does that mean? That means there's no possibility of raising a tax. None. There's no possibility. Can't be done. You can't sell the bonds if you got to worry about possibly raising a tax. You got to get that out of people's minds. And people that are trotting around trying to convince you that, they're just not telling you the truth. That's all there is to it. Somebody else, please tell me of somebody else that says something like, well, we believe in southern West Virginia is going to be left out.
I have heard people say that, Coach.
Okay. All right. Let's address that. First of all, where am I from? Where are all my roots? Do you really believe there's any way in the world I'm going to let southern West Virginia come up with the short end of the stick? There's not a chance on this planet. No way. No way. If anybody is going to be protected in this, it's going to be southern West Virginia. Now, I don't mean that derogatorily toward any parts of the other parts of West Virginia, but I am telling you that's not going to happen. 27 years on the Coalfield Expressway is long enough. It's long enough. And for crying out loud, if you go for a ride in southern West Virginia, you won't believe it. Now let me tell you this real quick. I went to the cemetery not long ago at Jesse, West Virginia again, where I got the hatchet and the tackle box before. And in going down there, if you'll go from Bolt and you'll go across to Glen Rogers, you'll see spots in the road that you will not believe. Now you think you've got spots where you're at that are tough. You've got spots there that, honest to goodness, the pavement, where you are driving, not the shoulder, the pavement. The pavement is squeezed in to about 9 feet. And the edge of the pavement, if you were to happen to just blink, the edge of the pavement drops straight off 40 feet straight down. It's just gone. Now, what if you're just driving along and you just happened off that? You're gone. You're completely gone. What if that's your family? You're gone. Do you know what? It may be days before they even find where you're at. Listen, we've got to help everywhere. But I can assure you beyond a shadow of a doubt that all the funding is in place. There is no possibility of another tax. There is an absolute, this is going to happen. The turnpike tolls are going to go up. But you're going to have the right for $8 to drive wherever you want, whenever you want, for $8 a year. Now, if you don't ever go on a turnpike, you don't have to do that. Everything's in place. I got to have you. I got to have you in every way, because if we don't pass this, let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go back to a situation to where there is nothing left but to step back and cut like you can't imagine. This is our chance. This is everything. This is the first step to everything. Now I'm going to add one last thing, then I'm going to quit. Whether you believe Donald Trump's great or you believe he's crazy and whatever, that's up to you. And there's times that I can tell you I think he's both. You know, but Donald can get himself in a lot of messes. But I do know the family, and I do know the family really well, and I can tell you that irregardless to what anybody here may think, he cares about West Virginia. He really does. Why? I don't really know. But he really does care about West Virginia. You know what else they're doing? They're watching this vote. They're watching. Because you know what? They're going to have the electoral votes of West Virginia no matter what. When Donald runs again, he's going to win West Virginia with his eyes closed. So why does he really care about doing anything for West Virginia? He's got us in his back pocket as far as winning the electoral votes of West Virginia. He cares because he truly does care. But you know what he's going to do? And I can't blame him for this in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If we're not smart enough to be able to vote for ourselves, then he's liable to look back at us or his people and say, why are we breaking our neck trying to help West Virginia? Those people are never going to be able to help themselves. I mean, this was so brainless, it's unbelievable. I mean, we have the right to be able to build our roads. There is no extra funding that's needed in any way. There's no extra taxation that's needed. The southern West Virginia roads are all placed in a bucket right now to where that's all going to happen. Why? Why would those people say no? And you're going to pass on a message to our federal government that says, we've lost our minds. And the only way you could do that is be scared. Be scared by people that have told you stuff that's just hocus pocus. That's all there is to it. It's not true. Now, I'm not degrading those people in any way, shape, form, or fashion. All I'm just saying to you is just this. I have never, and I won't, I have never not told you anything but the truth. I've told you where I stand on education, and I love you. And I mean it. I love you. And I love what we're doing within our state, and we're on the move. We can't screw this up. We cannot do it. I need your help here, and I'll stand with you till the cows come home in education. God bless you. Thank you for having me.